What's up, guys? Another rotation in the bag. Gastroenterology. I had like this whole like crazy intro plan, you know, me and I'm mountain biking.
Let's talk GI. Heck no.
Turns out I don't look very cool when I mountain bike. I have to say, gastroenterology was way more interesting than I thought it was gonna be. That's embarrassing. Gotta clean up my space here. So your GI system goes from your mouth to your anus. So how do they look from your mouth to your anus? Well, a camera. Simple as that. It's called a scope. A long black tube. At the end has a camera, lights, vacuum tube, CO2 expeller. I don't know what it's called. And they have like a porthole. Stick things out of the porthole, cut polyps up, cauterize something, all sorts of stuff. It's pretty cool. And the reason they pump CO2 out of the scope is that they fill up your intestines, stomach like a balloon. They just fill it up so they can look inside. Pretty simple. And the scopes, they have a few wheels on the top that the operator, the gastroenterologist, can control the end of the scope. So it's like a little flexible end so they can see, point to where they want to look at, go around curves, things like that. Really cool. It's a very skilled profession. So let's say a gastroenterologist, they're sticking their scope up your, time to get your first colonoscopy, hooray for you. So they're sticking their scope up your rear end and they find a polyp. So they gotta take it out, examine it. It's not like they're gonna reach their hand up there and pull it out. So they have to cut it out. The way they do that is that they stick a snare through the scope, out the porthole, and it's like a wire loop. They loop it around the polyp and cut it off and then suck it up through the vacuum. Easy as that. Now if the polyp is too big or it's flat or they just can't get to it, they can always just piecemeal it, just snip it off piece by piece. If it's really big and it has a blood supply, they can always hot snare it, wire loop, running with electricity now, burns its way through it, cauterizes the blood supply so it doesn't bleed out. Let's say you have an ulcer, a bleeding ulcer in your stomach, duodenum. They gotta stop the bleeding. Electricity, once again, they put the return pad on the person's thigh, a monopolar probe, they just slide it through the scope, zap that little ulcer dry. Zap, zap, zap. Another way they can do it is with the Argon beam laser, which is just as cool as it sounds. My preceptor described it as Sith Lightning. Unlimited money! They shoot a tiny stream of argon gas out the end of the probe, send electricity through it, and it looks just like tiny Sith lightning to continue on with bleeding, problems with bleeding. Let's say you have a bad liver, cirrhotic liver. The portal vein blood flowing into your liver gets backed up. Blood loves returning to the heart. That's where it wants to go. One of the ways they can go through is through the esophagus. So the veins inside of your esophagus, I keep jumbling those words together. The veins inside your esophagus get big and bulgy, purpley. If one of those varices popped, not very compatible with life. So the best way to stop esophageal varices from bleeding is to just get rid of them in the first place. So once again, they have their scope, and on the end of the scope they put a cylinder, and around the cylinder are rubber bands and a little string to pop them off. And they just vacuum it into the little hollow cylinder, pop a rubber band off in the varice, 2 or 3 days later, falls off, and if you do it right, the varice is ablated, goes away for at least a little bit. Another cool thing I saw is called an Ercp, Endoscopic Retrograde Cholangiopancreatography. All right, let's say you ate way too many triple fatty patty. You love your triple fatty patty. And unfortunately for you, you're prone to making gallstones. As you're eating one of your triple fatty patties, your gallbladder starts to contract, and one of those gallstones gets stuck in your ampulla of Vader. No bueno. And all of a sudden you're wondering, why didn't you just stick with a double fatty patty? The GI doc, he goes in there with one of his scopes. This time the camera's on the side of the scope instead of on the top of the scope. He sends a wire into the ampulla, up the common hepatic duct, and he uses that guide wire to insert a balloon. He injects dye. They're shooting x-rays at the same time. Everyone's wearing lead. They're all like trying to cover their thyroids. They're like, don't get my thyroid x-rays. He cuts the ampulla of Vader just a tiny bit, inflates the balloon, pulls it out, and hopefully pulls out the gallstone at the same time. And there you go. You're back to eating triple fatty patties the next day. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you have any questions or concerns, or if it's your birthday, I guess, or something like that. James out.